This video is going to show you a solo Grandmaster Nightfall, farming it because it's double Vanguard points, double loot. The adept weapon this week is Loaded Questions, so if you want to farm it, it is the week to do it. I'm not too fussed about farming the weapon, honestly, but that is another reason. But then, if you want to stack up your Ascendant Shards on what you can, then this is the time to do that. So it's full on Saber, so we all know it's a short GM, whether you're doing it team or solo. It really doesn't matter. It's going to be a bit quicker if you're doing it in 5 team runs. You'll get sub 12, sub 10 minute runs. Solo wise, you're going to be 20 25 minute range, something along there. We're doing the exploit at the start because we can, and this will slow down the farm if you don't do this. If you want to do the legit Warmind Sat thing and be a teacher's pet and all that, then do it. I'm not bothered either way. If this cheese wasn't here, I would still just do it anyways, like the legit way of doing it, which doesn't really matter, does it? You can step on and off the plate, you can bait the ads out. What's the point, really? The only thing that you need to kill here for platinum rating is champs, so let's just despawn all enemies, get rid of the Warsat, and you can kill the champions. I know people take offense to when people do this, but honestly, in a GM like this, you shouldn't have any pride anyways. It is really just a fast GM anyway. You shouldn't have any pride in this. Don't worry about it. Exploit it if you want. I think Bungie's got bigger things on at the minute other than people exploiting Warsats, so don't worry about it. So if you can bait an overload on the right hand side like that, you need to stun right away. If the overload does teleport to your right, because the idea is to get one of the overloads away from the barrier, so that the order of the champion kills you get is a little different. It means you don't have to engage with a barrier first, because the barrier will tether 2 overloads. That's more risk. Not that much more riskier, but it is a pain. It's a nuisance. So if you can get one of the overloads at the right hand side like I just did, great. If you can't, then just engage with the barrier, that's fine. So we're using the SHINOBU'S VOW skip grenade build, right? Which we now have our mods back, right? The mods that were disabled, like bolster and detonation, stuff like that. All that sort of stuff's back. I don't know if there's anything else bugged, because I've barely played the game. But our build obviously revolves around skip grenades. We get 2 of them. But you can combo that with bolster and detonation, which gives you class ability energy when you do damage with a grenade. That then allows us to use our class ability to activate bomber, because we've got double bomber on our class item, thus repeating the grenade cycle of skip grenades. Plus we have the grenade kickstart on, the charge with light one. I think it's called grenade kickstart, I'm sure it is. Where when you get a armor charge, when you throw a grenade, you get grenade energy back. Now people are saying it doesn't work. Point of reference, 2 minutes 17 seconds. Go and check that, and you will see that my armor charge will be consumed, and I get a portion of grenade energy. This definitely does work. I think people think it doesn't work because you get double grenade charge, but it almost certainly does. And in any case, why have a debate about whether it does or not? You're getting 4 grenades every 10 seconds. Do we really need to have this conversation of, well, you could have got 5 in 11 seconds as opposed to 4 in 10 seconds? Really though, you were jolting everything with this. You are jolting everything with this. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the details. But I've checked it for you. It does work, 100%. Just watch the footage, slow it down. If you're unsure, slow the video down to 0.5 times the speed, right? And then watch my grenade energy. Watch the individual components. Also, it stacks with is it lightning strikes twice, where you get a stat boost. You get that as well. So this first room, it's a no-brainer. Anyone who's into solo GMs, you know the position, and it's always in here because there's a lot of snipers at the back of the map. The snipers cannot engage with you, which means you can clear out all the marauders or marauders, and you can clear out all the ads. This is your cover, right? But don't use a super until this moment. E mode first, just to check. You can do a little nade if you want, just to sort of kind of stun the enemies a little bit, because it'll jolt them even though they are immune from the tether. But your purpose of this super right now, which I'm using Arc Staff, not Gathering Storm, which I'll talk about in a minute on the pros and cons of each super, but we're using Arc Staff, which is really good for bypassing barrier champs' tethers, because they'll tether the enemies and make them immune to weapon damage. What can bypass the tethers is Well of Radiance. Bubble can't, but Well of Radiance can, because it's counted as a super, whereas a Bubble's not. It's counted as just something that you place. Well of Radiance isn't. It's counted as a super. Therefore, when you're in a well, you will bypass the tether. But also will Roman supers. They will bypass the tether. So, you can make good use of that. I could have used Gathering Storm, right? Which in actual fact, Gathering Storm is the safer clear for the boss. But getting up to the boss, Arc Staff's better. So you make your decision. Is it harder for you to get to the boss, or is the boss fight harder for you? If the boss fight's harder for you, go Gathering Storm. If you're not, like, I'm accustomed to Arc Staff, alright? I've been playing a long time Arc Staff since it was released, so I know exactly how to play this super. And I know a lot of people, a lot of you didn't start playing until Forsaken or after. So a lot of you don't even really know Arc Staff, the combinations you can do with it. What's it like for Jolt nowadays? Because you are all running Gathering Storm. So you might learn a thing or two from this video with the whole Arc Staff thing. Arc Staff's a weird one, because if you've been following the channel long enough, you will know pre-Lightfall I discovered that Arc Staff would be able to kill GM barrier champions without barrier. Full health. It would actually stop them from putting a barrier shield up, right? But you couldn't kill an overload in a Raiden Flux super unless you've overloaded them prior with a weapon or some sort of overloaded ability that particular season, whatever it might be. So now it's a role reversal. Arc Staff is better now on overloads because the Jolt has been reworked since what I'm talking about, the time I'm talking about. But it's worse on barriers. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't stun lock them, what I call stun lock barrier champs anymore. Most of you won't even know what I'm going on about. But basically, don't suspect to be using your Raiden Flux super on barriers. It's a big no-no, don't. Unless you've at least stunned them once or twice and they're half HP, then you can do it if the timing's right. But for the most part, don't. On this phase here, we're going to break the fuse and stand back here and stand out in the outside section. Because it's open area, it's a little bit better to get all the exploder shanks. I feel they don't surprise you in that little hallway. Right, is the message with that. And then we can do a lot of jolt action. See, the beauty of skip grenades with the skip grenade build isn't the damage that they do. The damage that they do is actually subpar. It's below, but they have the utility. Because you're jolting everything. As long as you must obviously have spark or shotgun, but you're going to jolt more than what a pulse grenade would do and what a lightning grenade would do. Even though those two grenades I've mentioned are good, lightning grenades are still alright. People think they're really bad, but they're not. They're still okay. Pulse grenade's king for damage in terms of arc grenades, but this build is more utility based, and like I said, it's going to jolt everything, but when you do weapon damage, you're going to spread out even more jolt. Whatever weapon it might be. Le Monarque's Void does not gel with arc at all. We know this. But it's still going to jolt targets, because the target's already got jolt attached to them. So if you just hit them with Le Monarque or whatever, that's going to spread out jolt. Could have used Trinity Ghoul. Like, some people like want to use Trinity Ghoul, but like Trinity Ghoul is alright in strikes. It loses power in GMs. I don't like it in GMs. I like it in strike score and activities. When they're bringing back the Vanguard medals, they've mentioned this. That's what it's good for. It's for streak scoring. But it ain't good for no GMs. It ain't better than La Monarque. It just isn't. La Monarque's far better for GMs. Just because of its single target damage is better. Its ad clear is worse. But we don't need ad clear as much. It's more about the single target damage and being able to stun overload champs in an overload centric Nightfall is more valuable than just having a Trinity Ghoul with no champ mod in there. If there was overload bow up, you could use Trinity Girl. But it doesn't work that good with it. I'll just pre-warn you about that. With the Orb Section, so this is how I do it. You need to follow it exactly. Right, do the slide technique. You can do this if you're amplified and just run with the orb. But I'm just showing you if you're not. Because that's a timing thing. You could kill the 2 sniper shanks, get amplified, then run down this hallway. But then you've got to be right on it with your time. So I prefer not to show you that. Just show you it without amplified. Because there'll be players that are faster and slower than other players. So I'll just show you the slower strategy. So that it helps less experienced players. Simple as that. I know that you can do the amplify buff and run with the orb. I'm aware of it. Okay, so room 2. This isn't a bad room as long as you get your control going. Saber super, do not use super at the minute, because what you need to understand with this room is the way the ads come out depends on the percentage of enemies that are still alive in the room. So once you've got most of the marauders down, the exploded shanks, if you focus the ads and not the overload, existing overload champ that was initially there, then a barrier is going to spawn in before you can kill overload. So you have a choice to make here. If you were on Gathering Storm, you could come in this room, melt the initial ads, stun the champ in mid on the ramp and use your Gathering Storm super and quickly melt in before the barrier comes out. That is one option. For this, for the way I'm doing it, it was better for me to kill the ads, leave the overload up, get the barrier out, and then take advantage of my Roman super, because this is the power of it right now. Like, so you can see the engagement is difficult because the tether is making all the ads immune, so it's making me push. So I can just use a super and then get rid of that bad combat experience, which otherwise would have been difficult for me. But I knew that this was going to happen. That's why I've obviously went Raid and Flux, just to show it off. I try and show off Roman supers as much as I can, because I'm a huge fan of the underdog in this game, using underdog stuff. So when I can, I will. And not Raid and Flux, but the Arc Staff super itself is one of my favourite supers in the game because of how it works. It's like nothing else in terms of, it has hidden combinations. It's also got Jolt attached to it now, but it's a little bit iffy in your super. I recommend that you sort of still stun a overload while you're in your Roman super with a grenade. Right? That's a way of getting around it. So yeah, it's not my favourite for you, for like that it's in the meta. No, it's just my favourite that it's a fun ability. That's all. So we got unlucky here, I think. Yeah, because the overload would push just, and the aim assist messed us up. So we were just about to kill the overload, and then there was too many ads on our screen, and then we lost our footing. That's just unfortunate. I was a shot away off. Things like that happen. What I should have really done is wait for this overload, because when you do it the way I've done it, where you kill the barrier first and you've missed the first overload, you get 3 overloads up, of course. This changes the AI pattern of of the overload, right? So if there's 2 overloads, they'll just sit back at the map, sit at the back of the map. If there's 3, one will push, generally the solar one, because there's 2 different overload captains here. There's the Arc and the solar, but that's not definitive, by the way. There's a bit of RNG to that, but you need to push back. When there's 3 overloads, you're better off doing that, because if you're too far up, pushed up, the 2 other overloads will kill you while you try and kill the first overload you've approached. So I'm just saying, take the final overload, the first overload, if there's 3 of them, at the back of the map. We are close here. Our nade didn't do the trick there with the wretches. They spawn every time you sort of, they're on a timer, the wretches. They're infinite, by the way. They sort of just keep coming while you're fighting champs. The spawn will stop when you've obviously killed all your champions. So just be aware that they're going to spawn in. Your best thing you can do is jolt your overloads at the back of the map, because when they come out, the jolt should trigger and kill some of the wretches, or at least damage them a little bit. But they're not that threatening as long as you don't let them get too close to you like I did. You know, 2 melees nearly killed me, which the T10 resilience and all that sort of stuff, the resistance mods that I had on, helped me survive. So we're on our final overload. We're managing our ammo a little bit as well, because I've only got 7 shots. I think there is a brick to my top left. It's an ammo finder brick, unfortunately. So it's only +2. So we're not in a really good position for ammo right now. But we do have an exotic primary on, and remember, when you use exotic primary / double primary heavy, you get more heavy ammo. This is subject to change as they're nerf and double special heavy. But now that I think of it, they haven't mentioned double primary heavy, because this also gives you more heavy. It's going to be very interesting after the ammo patch, whenever they're doing that. I don't know when they're doing it. It's going to be very interesting to see what ammo is going to be like, as double primary heavy has been the solo meta since 2019. I'll repeat that because you probably didn't know. The solo GM meta has been double primary for 4 years. If you don't believe me, go and watch all the old original solo GMs. Just go and watch, and then you'll see. So double special is super strong, dungeon wise, raid wise, or fireteam speedrun GM wise. But solo GM wise, double special not so much, unless you're running a very particular build that warrants it. Like this one, you could make it work, like an arbalist fusion rifle sort of combo, or an arbalist trace rifle. Yeah, you can make it work with some ability based builds, but you ain't gonna make it work with every ability based build. Like if it's avoid sentinel, you're not going double special heavy. You're just not doing that. So it just depends. Like if you're using Assassin's Cowl on a punch dodge build, you can go double special because your abilities are doing everything for you. So you really don't need anything. Plus, because of how Arc 3.0 works, it has the best kit for overload champions. Look at this. I'm stunning 3 overloads back to back because of how JOLT works. So even though they nerfed JOLT, they sort of nerfed it and buffed it at the same time, didn't they? They've done some changes with it. But it doesn't matter, because I'll tell you the one reason why is because overload champions, out of all the champions that we have, are the most difficult champions to deal with if you don't have a reliable way to stun them. Barriers aren't a problem really. You can even use stasis like Riptide, Fusion Rifle. You know, the Soul Arbalist makes short work of them. Barriers are never a problem, generally speaking. Right? Unstoppables are very easy to control. You can kill them without unstoppable rounds. So it's always the overloads, but that's what makes Arc 3.0 the best subclasses in the game for this type of content, because overloads are your main enemy. So if you can literally just stun them with a pulse grenade, you don't even need an overload weapon. Right? I'm just using the Monarque not just for its stun effect, but to one-shot enemies. But that's just showing you, because it deals with the hardest enemy type in the game easy, it automatically makes it best in slot, no matter what you say. Even Strand, better than Strand, yes, still. Strand deals with... Okay, this is just... Right, that's a bug, that. Oh, we get 2 bugs. I think the... Yeah, so there's 2 bugs happen there. We don't jump on the slope like that. I mistime a jump because you go flying with momentum. That's a bug, but the momentum bug that they patched stopped us from dying, because you can't die from damage like that now. But I could have still, the servitor could have still killed me afterwards. But one of the servitors teleported whilst he done it. So that was such a weird combat thing that just happened. Don't step on the ramp. That is what you need to do. It's just sometimes when you jump down on a hunter with hunter jumps, you mess it up, which I nearly did. So for DPS on the boss, again, people who are watching solo GMs will know exactly where you DPS this boss, and it's this part of the room, because you don't really need to worry about anything there. The only danger is the boss coming up to you and using his AoE attack on you. I'm using a bit of super damage because that saves on heavy ammo, it saves on a lot of stuff. We're going to jolt the boss. Make sure you do, because then he's turned into a walking jolt tank at that point. Because when you're doing damage to the boss, you're actually killing all the adds as well. You're multitasking. So all I would say to you is, this boss one-shots now for some reason this season with his solar shot. I don't know why. He used to in the old GM days, and then that stopped happening, and then now he one-shots again. He's solar sniper, right? Because phase 1 and 2, he is a solar sniper. Like right now, the boss has the potential to one-shot us. So make sure you stand behind this pillar and don't let the boss see you at all, because even though the boss is immune, he will attack you in this phase. So just don't peek it. Right, just make sure you stay behind the pillar. The barrier isn't threatening. The shanks aren't threatening. So yeah, like you saw when I dodged there, you could just see the boss starting to see me. Just don't give the boss any chance to one-shot you, because then you've wasted time on your farm, and you've got to restart your run-up, and you'll be annoyed, won't you? So don't let it happen. Here we're farming some super energy, so I'm abusing the intellect mechanic that you get super energy from mages, ultras and champions or bosses. When you shoot these types of bosses, your super goes up, which is the main reason why the intellect stat is not getting used anymore in PvE, because of this mechanic right here. This is exactly showing you why your intellect stat, if you can get it, it should be tier 0 or tier 1. If you can get as least amount of intellect on your armor, the better, because all those stat points will be going into actual stats that you want. Discipline, resilience, recovery, mobility if you're on a hunter. So don't waste any time. Intellect, never. Even if you're playing in a fire team, it doesn't matter, because you're getting orbs off your teammates. You're going to get plenty of supers in PvE. You don't need intellect. Intellect is a stat that doesn't work. It's funny, because we went from resilience being a broken stat to now it being a working stat, to now intellect used to be a valuable stat in PvE, to now it being a stat that doesn't need to be invested in. I don't know whether it's good. I don't know whether it's a good or bad thing. It was a good thing when it came out, because it's just one less stat to proc for. But it is. I think it shouldn't be to this level, where you're not even needing to spec for the stat in the game. I don't think that should ever be a case. So I don't know what they can do about that. They'll just leave it like as it is. I don't mind. Let's leave it like this. I get more supers when I'm solo. I'm happy enough with that, and I don't need to spend stat points on it. So getting on to phase 3 and 4, well, you can gel really phase 3 and 4 into one phase really, because it is the same phase, to be honest. So I'm just farming some super energy up again off this champ. The boss on phase 3 will actually change his type of damage. So he's on void now. You can see his sniper that he has on his head is gone. So he can't one-shot us while he's immune. This is key to know. It means I can move around the map, pick up your ammo, because we don't need that many shots. Probably need 6 shots minimum. Well, no, maybe say maybe 10, because you're going to use a bit of ammo, or you should be. So at least 10 shots right now. You'd be healthy enough at that. I didn't really need to farm this champion out as much as I did, because if you've saw my previous solos on this, sometimes I'll just literally melt him down from half HP to dead before the exploded shanks even come out. On this loadout, I wasn't confident on doing that, and the reason for that is because I'm not on Gathering Storm, and I am on Arc Staff, which does melt him, but the Raiden Flux would have been required at this point, but I can't switch exotics mid-run. So I figured, right, it's alright, I'll just get the boss weak, and then we'll do the exploded shank phase. That just revolves around you staying behind these ramps and killing all the exploded shanks, which they are not infinite. They keep coming though. You get 0 points for them. This has always been a thing. But that's not the point. The point is we're killing them before we do DPS to the boss, because we are on a CQC super. So I know what I can out-tank and what I can't, and I can't out-tank 3 exploded shanks exploding on me whilst I'm super in the boss. So it wouldn't be a viable strat right now. So I could maybe do it, but it's a high risk of death. And I didn't want to do that for the video. But like I said, I could have easily run Gathering Storm. So if you want to run Gathering Storm, I'm not saying you shouldn't. It's probably the better option overall. I'm just showing you the pros and cons between a Roman Saber slash a one-shot style Saber like that. But the real purpose of the video is to show you the farm, and that SHINOBU'S VOW is probably going to be the best one because you get to the boss so quick. It's just worth using. It's a top. I would say now it's a good 9 out of 10, nearly 10 out of 10 exotic right now. However, after this season, when they nerf arc builds, the power of the build will go down a tad. I would give it like a 7 out of 10 without the arc mods. With the arc mods, it's a good nearly 10 out. It's probably a 10 out of 10 build. So it does look. Just bear in mind, it's not going to be as strong as this every season because I've got the artifact mods on. But it's still going to be quite somewhat strong. But it might not be always the go-to to use the SHINOBU'S. So that's just what I'm saying. It's very good to use this season, but after this season, not as much, but still really viable. So I'm just waiting to see if all the Explorer Shanks are done, which they are gonna be. I didn't make any comments about the state of the game because we've all done a lot of complaining, and me just complaining more just pisses me off in my own video. So I didn't really want to mention about it at all. You know what I think. I don't want Battleground GMs. We're getting more. What do I say? I'm sort of done talking about it really. They'll do what they want with their game. That was a solo GM on it. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.